All right, hi everyone. Welcome back to Stetson Stories. Maybe this will be a Stetson story. Like I said before, well, hi, I'm Dr. Vernita. Why did I go by Dr. V? And I am your certified and credentialed transformational life coach. Thank you so much for joining me on this new podcast slash video series. This is, I hesitate to say which number this is because I don't know which order I'm going to put it in, but at the time of this recording, it is episode 4. This is still the last week of March in 2023. And I'm saying that because I don't know exactly when this will all drop. If you have not listened to my previous episodes, and I hope that you have, so I don't have to keep saying this small intro, but it's all good. I've been led by God to start sharing some of these Stetson stories. And, some people may say, well, why are you naming the university? I mean, I have a unique name. So a quick Google search, you'll see, unless they scrubbed me from the database, that was where I worked for the last 5 years before I was fired, by the way. And so it's not like I'm bashing the institution. However, there's just things that happened in my experience. So I was there. I didn't do a diary or journal of these things. I think I probably did, but not in a way. I will say I wish that I would have just got on here and started recording what was happening. I joked with my sister one time. I was like, you know what? I should just read, these emails that I get from the students and faculty. I should just read them and do videos about them, but not even thinking that I could save them at the time. I was like, well, I don't want to post them right now. So that's a lesson, for someone. If you are having an experience, and I started video recording myself, I have a lot of things that may not ever air, or I just recently clipped something, for people that are applying to work with me to go through my funnel sequence so they can get a version of behind the transformation, and they could see it wasn't even that I filmed the video for that purpose, but again, listening. And sometimes I'm like, really, God, you want me to do that? It was a part in there that I cut out, and I'm putting it out there for people to see. And it's like now I have these moments. I understand what you could be going through, what you have gone through. So just because I am in this coaching space, please don't think that I have arrived. I'm still working through some things. So I showed that moment, not even saying, oh, I'm gonna save it for this. It was just something I wanted to share. So same thing here, but I did not video record. So I'm just telling people, like, you may not ever share it, but I think it's a good way to just keep up with how you are actually transforming if you're interested in that. When I was getting my coaching certification, Lisa Nichols certified transformational coach, along with Sean Smith, Coach Sean Smith, who's fantastic, we had to do video journals as part of the certification. I know that some people like just cranked them out. They just did them like whenever. And I did get all of mine, but I was like pacing them out because I actually wanted to see myself evolve, and I wanted to feel my transformation. I didn't want to just check off that I did this assignment because I'm good at checking off. Like, if my brain goes into school mode, what's the assignment? Let me get it done. Where's my grade? And I had been treating my personal development like that, and wondering why I wasn't making the progress I know I could be making, especially with the level of transformational work that I've immersed myself in. And it's because I had to make that switch. This is not like school. So I wanted to put that out there. Before I came back on to do this episode, I listened to one of my coach mentors, and she was doing something on Instagram. I was like, well, let me listen to this as my other episodes were like loading up. And again, I've been paying more attention to these God winks that I'm getting along the way, because earlier I was listening to one of my coaches on YouTube. He was talking about understanding transformational coaching and what needs to take place. And let me say this, because I said it before and I have no problem. So let me just name my coaches. I keep saying that I'm going to do this, and I don't think I've done it yet. Not that it's a secret, but I think I just haven't done it. So I've worked with Lisa Nichols, like Lisa Nichols. I already talked about Marshawn Evans Daniels because I have her calendar. Oh, I talked to her because I had a calendar, not that I've actually, worked with her. She's been a mentor of mine in some capacity. Dr. Tracy Timberlake, who's my money mindset coach, Coach Sean Smith, who is like brilliant with this human transformation, neuro transformation type of coaching, really, really deep. And I connect with him because he was also a former mathematics teacher and he's all about learning about human behavior. And he reminds me that I was going down that path in undergrad and into psychology, and I actually took a class on the analysis of human behavior. And I was like, why am I geeked out about this stuff? And it was like, again, God was giving me clues. I didn't pay attention. And then Susie Carter, who was one of my coaches at one time, and then she circled back around, and hopefully I get to work with her. And I'm just going to stop there because these are the coaches that have had the positive impact on my life. We all have some where we're like those who should not be named, and I'm not going to go there. But anyway, those are my coaches. So I say that one because as brilliant as I know that I am, I want you all to know that I have had high level support, and it takes high level people to work with. It takes confident, certain high level people to work with content, certain high level people. I may not have been that in this capacity, but I had those qualities. So it took those like a team to draw that out of me in the practical sense and remind me of who God created me to be. So I invite you to, sometimes your mentors may not look like you, they may not be in your same industry, field. And again, mentors different and coaching are different. And when I say mentors, like, I can listen to what you're saying on your Instagram or your podcast, and those like mentors in my head. But then coaching investment, like you sit there and time with me and you help me develop and know who I am and draw out. My other coaches, like Marshawn, is different. If you go look her up, you'll see what I mean. She's different. They're all great, but she's very much her whole thing is destiny and believing bigger and purpose, and I'll just leave it at that. But I brought all of that up to say is that what I'm about to talk about, the God winks, the first coach Sean, I was listening to him and he was talking about, understand where you are as far as being a transformational coach, because this is not the same as informational motivational coaching. So like I can teach you something, I can teach you about mathematics, I can teach you about business systems, I can teach you about building a course, even though I've never been that person, like, let me help you build a course when I know how to write curriculum in my sleep. But anyway, that's different. And it's like these are the stages, and you go look him up on YouTube. He talks about those 4 stages, and he was like, you're in this, you can get information, you can get immersed, and I've been immersed like in more hours than I can think about now, and I'm going to immerse myself even more at live events. Like I've gone on retreats and spent days in this work online for hours, and and then he talks about I think it's isolated immersion, where you feel like you tell everybody all the new stuff that you learned and you're like vomiting on everybody. And he was like, that's what you're supposed to do. And I was like, oh, I thought it was something wrong with me, because when I get so excited about something, that's what I do. And then there's the last step where you find like you're both confident, certain, and you find your direction, your pathway using all of that. And so I can feel myself getting more into that, especially the more that I work in this coaching space. And then listening to what Marshawn just said, she was talking about her toddler. She always get these life lessons from her triplets. She has triplet girls, and they're in their toddler stage. And she was saying how toddlers don't mind, you know, falling down, getting back up. They're still ambitious. They're still going to go after what they want to go after, even if they don't get it right on the first, second, third, or 10th time. They're going to keep trying. And she was saying, why don't we do that once we become adults? We don't get something right the first or second time. We're like, either give up, we give up, or we're hard on ourselves and all of this. And she was like, the toddlers give themselves grace because they know that they're still learning. Why don't we do the same when we're learning something? And I was like, oh my gosh. And then so I just made the connection between what she said and what Sean said in this video. And that took me back to like, now I can see all the times I was at Stetson, I was learning. Why am I getting emotional about that? I didn't give myself grace to understand I was learning how to be a college professor in that state, in this that stage of my life. I didn't give myself grace when I was learning how to be a doctoral student. It was kind of one of those things that people expected you to know that. I think I had a lot of grace when I was a teacher, even when I became like a mathematics coach. There was grace with that. But just somewhere when I transitioned to being a doctoral student and then a college professor, it was, oh, you're supposed to know this already. So why do you keep failing? And I can see how that has transitioned into my time this now that I'm a full-time entrepreneur. And I always say this is not, it wasn't by choice. Like entrepreneurship chose me, being a transformational coach chose me, and I'm still gonna lead with that. And I know God had other plans. He's been giving me hints along the way, but I wasn't paying attention because I didn't see myself like me being a business owner, me trying to be a CEO of myself. That's for people over there. I didn't go to school for that. My family didn't come from that. You mean not have a stable job, these good benefits, as my grandmother would say, even though we learned that there is no stable job and good benefits, that can leave at any moment. So technically, we're all out here pseudo entrepreneurs in some kind of way. But look, don't jump out there and quit your job. I always lead with that. We need people to work. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody, and that's not a dig. It is. I think it's a great place to be in your profession and doing what you're doing. Just make sure you're doing it at the highest level that you can. And I saying that to say was when I clicked for me to be a college professor, I was going to own that thing. And I did some things to make sure that if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be the best that I can. And if I need to go and be a university president, whatever, move up the ranks, whatever, I was going to do that. So, but it was just something in me that I got to leave. And my leaving was let me go to another career or another institution or something different like that versus let me start my own business. I just want to put that out there. Like everybody was like, I want to own my time. I want to be my own boss. All right. But if you can't do all of that if you're not operating at the highest level that you can be as an employee, you have no chance of being an employer. Okay, because I'm not trying to stay a solopreneur. I'm not even trying to stay an entrepreneur. I want to be a businesswoman, CEO. I want multiple. So that requires a different level of you just being a one person show. But anyway, all right, I digress. What was I saying? Okay. And so I didn't give myself grace for that I'm still learning. And I promise you, it was probably just this morning. And of course, this has been a continuation. But it clicked to me when Sean said that what he said about you're still in the space where you're on your way to mastery, and I was like, oh, I thought it's been something wrong with me. Is it too slow? Am I doing too much? Am I going too fast? And when I get excited talking about people, they look at me like I'm speaking another language. Like, what is happening to you? And I've been fire hosing people because I get so excited. But same thing when I was teaching mathematics and teaching how to learn mathematics. I would fire hose, and nobody could tell me. It was always just the negative stuff, and I was still learning, but it felt like I was expected to know it already. And then all of my evaluations, it wasn't like they were helping me or teaching me anything. It's like when you evaluate someone and you're supposed to say, all right, this is where you can improve upon. I've always been open to that, but it was nothing nice. So it wasn't safe for me to learn. I never said that out loud. And I'm having like a Sean moment. If you go watch some of his videos when he says something and he feel it in his body, he literally tells you like, oh, I felt that reaction. I I feel that. As an educator, whew, where my sole job is to make sure that people feel safe learning. I didn't feel safe learning. I wasn't given the opportunity to be nurtured and truly mentored. Huh. And now I can see like sometimes why is it has been a challenge in this business space of what's taking what I think is taking so long is because I haven't given myself the grace to enjoy being a student. It's like, let me hurry. Now I can see where it came from. Let me hurry up and master this because that is my protection. I'm not gonna be incompetent out here. If I'm incompetent, I shut up. But then if I'm expected to know, I gotta hurry up and get competent versus being confident and certain, which takes time. Yes, these episodes are for me too. Wow. And so every time I was getting beat up from evaluations where they're supposed to help you learn, and I remember being on the committee, like, look, y'all got to toss these evaluations out. They do not help. Like, we're all for feedback, but this is not the vibe, especially at the end of the year. And it was like, all right, fine, you don't want to change that, but don't let it be used for like our tenure and promotion process because that institution was so focused on students. So whatever the students said was gold. And I've said this before, it was like the inmates running the jail. You know, it was like you had the inmates telling the wardens what to do and when it was time to go to sleep and when to feed them. Now they're the ones behind bars, but it was like, yeah, we're in here, but we're gonna tell you how to treat us. Versus this is how we say it's gonna go, so you conform. Meaning like, for an example, and I'll get back to the evaluations, I had an instance where one student missed 13 assignments. Now, mind you, it's only 16 weeks in the semester, and I'll say maybe I gave 2 assignments. So that's still half the assignments. I don't even think I gave that many, but whatever, 13 assignments. And it was like, well, just let her make up the assignments. And I was like, no, because my syllabus says no makeup work, or depending on what it is, these are the parameters or the guidelines in which I will accept late work. But if it doesn't follow that, then no dice. And it was, oh, well, just come on. And I was like, y'all don't understand. These are not just like little random things. You want me to do extra work because she did not do her work. And instead of fighting it I mean, I fought, but it was like, am I going to win? And I was like, fine, just here. I don't even care. Just, I'm not great at anything. Do whatever you want to do. And again, for those of you who are in the the business industry, career industry, corporate industry, if you're wondering why you got some people showing up with college degrees and they're still acting a certain way, is because professors were tired. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's one reason why I definitely had to leave. Or my mind was already checked out. That's when my soul had checked out. Like, I can't do this. But anyway, so instead of my colleague, coworker, having my back, and she was supposed to be one of my uh, mentors, or allegedly, instead of her was like, no, I almost said the student name, no, such and such, this is how it's going to be. You just need to accept the grade. And I didn't fail students because it was too much paperwork to fail a student. So I was like, you get a C, you're going to pass, but you get a C because, whatever. And she was like, well, just let her do it. But long story, she did not have my back. I ended up letting the student do whatever. I didn't care what she did, honestly. Because at that point, you just show the student that she can do whatever she wants. And if she comes crying and saying the right words, then she can have her way. And I was like, it's not like she didn't know she was missing these assignments. It's like every week, hey. Or it's like, you can't make this one up, but you can do this. But anyway, so stuff like that, where the students would run the professors, or something that they didn't like, they would go again. I told you, send me to the principal's office or say things about me. And I remember like those evaluations again would rip me up. And this is when I had stopped really reading them for gen ed, but I was still reading them for my core classes. But then one semester, because I had one group, one class, I won't say the year, but they were my favorite class ever. They were my best class. Just as students, um, human beings, they were just a good group overall. And even the ones who didn't do what they needed to do, had one student, she owned up to it. Like, you know what, Dr. Glenn, I just ain't do it. I ain't got it. And it was none of that. She would just give me the grade. I was like, I'm not gonna fail you. Thank you for owning up to that, but I do need you to do this. I was like, okay, I can do that. You know, I was like, thank you. Headphones fell out. So it was just a good group, and I can feel myself getting emotional because I don't remember how this actually came up, but it was another course, like gut punch, again, where it wasn't safe to learn. Um, we were in class. I was doing something. I can't remember exactly what we were doing, but it was a good time. I was in a good mood. They were in a good mood. It was a good day. This was my early. It was like my 9 to 12 class, because that class is always on a Thursday, 9 to 12 for 5 years straight, every semester. And we are talking about evaluation somehow, and they kind of just stopped and paused, and they were like, well, I started giving out evaluations. I was like, look, you don't have to put your name on it, even though it's a small group of you all. I won't hold it against you. But if there's something that's not working well, or you're feeling some type of way, I need you to do them right now. I said, because for you all to save all of the, if you're angry or whatever you have against me to the end of the year, that doesn't serve you well, and that doesn't serve me well, especially if we can address something right now. So I started doing mid evaluations in class, and I was like, I know they're like, oh, don't read them. I say, no, forget that. I need to know. And so if you say it, I was like, I'm a grown woman. I can handle it. And I did learn at this point. It was like, if you can say you hate my gut. I said, but my job and responsibility is still to teach you and not hold that against you. Right? Because one, that was what educators are supposed to do. Um, anyway, so I got them, and it started working for my other classes as well. But this group, they were like, no, Dr. Long, we actually don't have anything. You know, you always address us, or if we have an issue, you work with us if something isn't working. So we really appreciate that. But they were like, well, we didn't, when we first, because remember, I think I said in one episode, sometimes I would have the same cohort of students twice, but in different types of classes. So this group, I had them before in this BS class that I hated, that had no business being in the catalog. Could nobody tell me what to do in this class? I literally was making up this class every chance I got, because trying to do something new, because it was just so stupid. But they would not take it off the books, but they kept giving it to me. And that caused my scores to go down as well, because I was disorganized, not knowing what to do, because nothing worked. It was just a dumb class. But anyway, so they ripped me up in that class too. They didn't really know me, but they were like, "Oh my gosh, you're very different in this class." And I was like, "Yes, because this is my zone, and I don't have any guidance. I don't know. Nobody knows what to do over there, so I just make stuff up." And they're like, "Oh man, we should have been talking to you, because the other professors, like if we had a problem with you or we try to figure things out, they would just tell us to save it and put it on the evaluation." I was like, "Excuse me?" They were like, "You see how you're talking to us now? We didn't know you would do that." So they told us, you know, if we were having trouble, just put on your evaluation. I know they said that to all of the classes, especially about you. And I remember like, oh my gosh. And they were like, we're sorry. And I was like, it's not your fault. And I remember walking out, calling my grandmother and said, Grandma, I knew it was true. I said, I know I'm not crazy. They literally have been doing this. And because in my mind, I kind of knew, but then when the student said it, and I mind you, I never shared anything with the kids like that. It was like an internal battle, but they knew, they picked up on like I was being treated like different, and then some of the other professors would still like make digs about me in the class in front of the other students. And so when they said that, I left them in the class and called my grandmother and was like, I can't do this. And I said, they're literally out here to get me. They do not want me to succeed. It's literally a setup. And either my grandmother said, come home or something, but I think I told the kids, it's a wrap. We're done. Go home. I got nothing. And I don't know if I don't remember if I had another class later that day or what. I don't know. I left. I left because it was like, one, it was a relief. Like, I am not crazy. I am not paranoid. Like, people are out to get me. Like, because people would think that I was crazy. I was so consumed at one point where I was just talking about it. And then people were like, no, that's you. But other black people were like, no, it is. But it was kind of like, but we can't prove it. And when they said that, it was like, it was hurtful and it was a relief, but it was too many emotions to where I couldn't suppress that day, and I was out. And and now I can see like why it has been challenging for me, especially in this transformational work, because in this transformational work, you have to be a transformed human being. And I remember going through my certification with a cohort of people. I didn't trust any of them. Maybe like two, three, four out of 25, almost 30 people. And I remember it's like, well, because it's not that I knew the stuff, but a lot of it aligned with like the education profession and understanding beliefs and all of that. I just didn't transfer, but when they were teaching, I was like, oh, and it wasn't hard for me. And then I had already gone to immersive retreats years before and taking like these deep dive personal development courses. So me opening up and cracking myself open and all of that, I had gotten used to it. And then I started getting more serious about it. And I was like, okay, I want to teach this. It's like, I want to be able to do this at this level. So the people who were entering, they didn't have those experiences. And I felt myself like trying to shut down or back up and not be as expressive because I was like, well, it's not safe to learn. Now I understand why I was like that. But then one of my coaches, Lisa, and I remember I private messaged her while we were in class and I shared something with her. And I was like, this is not hard for me. I was feeling bad because like a lot of people are struggling. I'm not struggling. And she was like, all right, I'm going to bring it up. Do you mind? I was like, well, that's why I'm here. And this whole session, I'm boohoo crying. And again, I think that cracked where I can own my brilliance. And okay, you're struggling, but in order for me to feel like I belong, I don't also have to say, oh, that was hard for me too. And I remember I would do that a lot subconsciously in a lot of areas because it wasn't that, oh, I want to have friends. It wasn't that. It was just always, how some people are like, well, you never struggle, so you wouldn't understand. Well, my struggle is different, but I don't have to have that same struggle to connect with you. That was me growing up. And then definitely in this professor space to where I it was like, oh, what I'm getting so far. Okay, I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna try to tie this up with the bow. There was one incident where one of the people wrote on my evaluations. Now these are colleagues because colleagues and the colleagues when they told the students what to write on the evaluation, and the students wrote what they wrote. The colleagues also had something to say about the type of person, or it's supposed to be the type of educator you are, professor you are, but it was about the type of person. They all get into this round table discussion about you. And then it's not like this person said this person said that. It's a summary of what they said. And one of the things was, and not the exact words, but I don't know, uppity was in there. She thinks she knows everything. She's uppity. And I'm, excuse me for this. I'm not gonna say the full word, but it was like that tone. And people, y'all can say whatever y'all want to say, but until you've been in this full experience and you read what was on that paper and things like that, it was the tone. We got to humble this uppity word. Never shared that. Mm. So it wasn't so much that you want to quote unquote fit in, but we're human and our human nature is to belong. So sometimes you downplay. I know I downplay certain things to belong. And so and when I got to the university, downplay how much I knew to belong, and it still didn't work. So, well, fine, let me go ahead and be this way. When I tried to ask for help, it blew up in my face. I tried to show, like, things like that. It blew up. It didn't work. I tried to, but if it didn't come a certain way, then it wasn't good enough. And then, so when I was getting the certification, I felt that coming up, and I was like, no, we got to fix this because if the issue keeps coming up, and I'm in different situations, it's me. It's a story that I'm telling myself or something that is still holding on that I haven't realized. And I didn't say that story at the moment. It was something similar, but so we addressed it and she was like, look, yeah, she's here, she's vulnerable, she has this doctor. And that was the other thing. I was always trying to get ahead of the doctor's degree. I was always trying to be like, yeah, I'm Dr. Butt. I'm still like I'm same OG, I'm Jenny from the block. It was always one of those things like, yeah, I'm Dr. Butt. Like, don't judge me for having this doctor. And I was like, man, so now I was like, forget that. Forget that. I am Dr. Vernita. I go by Dr. V. Now you can choose to say doctor or not. I mean, I don't get pressed about that unless I know why you're not saying it. And I had to check some people like, if you're gonna call that person doctor, then you need to call me doctor. Because now you're just dismissing because you're dismissing the way I look. And I've had those things happen. Or people just start talking to me without addressing me. That used to get me on my emails too, where they it all right, no, I'll talk about that too. Anyway, so we got into this whole thing. I'm boohoo crying and the it's like our first round of certification classes online. And but in that moment I was like, yeah, I'm brilliant, and I had a breakdown. And Lisa walked me through that. And then from then on I was able to show up and be more vulnerable as myself without thinking that somebody was judging me. They were going to judge me regardless, but I didn't I didn't censor myself. I'll say that. So it's one thing to to know that people are going to judge you, but still show up, but then not always thinking that somebody's going to judge you and still show up. I hope that makes sense. Like people are going to judge you, but if I know somebody's going to judge me, you kind of get this little stank on it, but that's not always the case. But to still be able to show up no matter what, that's what I had to learn how to do. And that's what I'm still learning how to do, especially in this space as a transformational coach. Like it is okay that I am still learning. And in this business space, oh my gosh, that was something in this business space, it is okay to still learn. And it was like, so what? You have this PhD. Your PhD is not in business. It's not in entrepreneurship. It's not in any of this. So chill out. And so I want to leave you with that. I hope I wrapped all of that up with a bow, some of those experiences, and now I can see how this is showing up as a transformational coach and in or be coaching and having my own business, and things that were preparing me along the way from being a university professor until now, sharing these stories with people, and maybe that will help people draw in. Like I didn't just make this shift. I had already been in the work. All right, I'm going to leave that here. I hope that's tied up with the bow. Give yourself some grace that you're still learning, but then remember that you did not come into whatever new phase of your life as a blank slate. All right. Thank you so much for listening and learning with me. And I will see you all next time. Bye.